Guys, today is our second last video that we're dealing with word formation in Hebrew. We've looked at the vowel points, how to pronounce the vowel sounds a, e, I, o, and u. We've looked at diphthongs, the combination of vowels. We've looked at syllabification, how do you actually break up a Hebrew word into the shortest or the smallest phonetic building block. And today we're coming to the pre-final section of this season 2. And this is the whole phenomena that Hebrew, at its base, Hebrew in its essence is a root-based language. Now, what do we mean by a root-based language? Let's take the English word disinformation. Okay? If I ask you this word disinformation, what would be the root of the word disinformation? Most people would jump at it and say information. Oh wait, but maybe even inform. But if we dig deeper, we will even find that the verb inform can be broken up into two Latin concepts, in for into and forma, which is where we get the word form from. So the full English word disinformation also has a root called form. And the dis and the in and the ation at the end is conjugations, prefixes, suffixes that help us take this root concept of form and expand on that. And in a similar fashion, Hebrew is divided into 3 types of root words. We get parent roots, child roots, and adopted roots, and we will look at those. But for a moment, why is this important? Hebrew, in its ancient form, is a pictographic language. And as we've dealt with before, this ancient pictographic language tells us something about the root concepts, the root ideas with which the ancient Hebrews did life. For example, let's take the word L. It's an ALEPH and a LAMED. And an ALEPH, the picture of an ox, and a LAMED, the picture of a shepherd's staff. So when we put the concept of an ox, which represents strength, hard work, the animal that is humble but strong, that perseveres, and we put that alongside the concept of a shepherd's staff, which means motion, leadership, authority, we get two source concepts that tells us something about God, the authority that is strong, the strength that leads us. And that concept, that base concept, is eventually what we will use to determine the almost bedrock understanding of certain Hebrew concepts, certain Hebrew ideas. This is why this is important. And then when you take a word like L, and even if you use it in the Aramaic script like this, and we put an I-M at the end, we get the word Elohim, and there's some conjugation that happens there as well. But then that word Elohim in its essence is still the word L, with a conjugation, with a suffix. So root words, parent roots, child roots, adopted roots, prefixes and suffixes, our ability to distinguish these from one another is what gives us the ability to dig to the bedrock, dig to the baseline meaning of Hebrew words. And this is the exciting bit. And this is where I'm really thinking we should now start to pull everything that we've learned, all about the alphabet, all about the meaning of the letters, all about the vowels, all about the syllabification. This is where all of this gets together now. Let's quickly look at the 3 types of Hebrew roots. Courtesy of Mr. Jeff Benner, who is one of my heroes in the study of ancient Hebrew, I'm going to use his example or his diagram just to explain something, because I think it is just so brilliantly clear and simple. First of all, let's look at the parent word LAKH. Okay, this is the word means to walk. A child root is a word that is derived from a parent root. Now, normally they say parent roots have 2 letters, and for now I'm going to stick to that explanation as the baseline with which we will work. Let's take the word LAKH, which will be our parent root. Then derived from the parent root, we get 2 child roots. The one is LAKH, which is a messenger. And you can see, while the word LAKH means to walk, a messenger is somebody who goes. Okay, so a child root is one level deeper, where we have a little bit more meaning to the word walk. LAKH, message, and another word would be HALAKH, which means a walker. or to walk. An adopted root that comes straight from the word LAKH is the word malach, and that's the verb which means to rule or to reign or to be a king. And then from the adopted root we get a number of words. For example, the word malcha, which is a queen, the word malkut, which is kingdom. Everything can be traced back to that two-letter parent root, LAKH. Very important. I'm not going to go too deep into all of the details, but let's quickly just find the academic differentiation between a parent, a child, and an adopted root. There's a longer definition and a longer story behind the idea of a parent root, but for now, a parent root will be a combination of two Hebrew letters, which gives us a baseline, a fundamental concept in Hebrew. For example, the word ALEPH beit is the word av, the strength of the house, which is the word for a tent pole, but which is also the word for father. The word ben, the house and seed, the house continues. And this was the understanding of the word for son. The son continues the house. When the son is born into the house, they actually expanded the house, or they expanded the tent. And this is also, by the way, the word for a tent flap is the word ben. Then there's the word for mother, aleph, mem, strong water, glue, and she was seen as the glue of the family. Another concept would be the word El, as we've mentioned. Strong shepherd, strong leader, strong authority. And that is where we get our idea of God from. So, for our definition, a parent root is a combination of two Hebrew letters expanding on the fundamental concept and giving us a fuller meaning. But it's a concrete meaning, it's a parent meaning, if that makes sense. Child roots are normally three-letter words, as are adopted roots. The difference being, the rule with a child root is when you take a parent root and you add any of the weak consonants, specifically the aleph, the hey, the vav, and the yod. When any of those four consonants or consonants doubling up as vowels, when any of those are added into a parent root, we get what we call a child root, a three-letter root word. Let's take the parent root baal, a beit and a lamed. This word means flow. And then derived from that, we have the word aval, which means wilt or a flowing away of life. We have the word haval, which is the word for empty, and which is a flowing out of contents. Then we have the word bahal, which is to panic, and it's a flowing out of the insides. We have the word bala, which is the word for aged, a flowing away of youth. Bul, which is a flood, a heavy flowing of water. And then finally, yaval, which is a stream or a flowing of water. Can you see all of these derived words from the parent root baal has something to do with flowing? So, the rule for a child root, a parent root with any of those four weak consonants or vowel consonants added into the word. And then finally, we have the idea of adopted roots. Adopted roots are three-letter words, but in this case, we have three strong consonants in a row. Very important. Let's take the parent root par, and again, full credit to Mr. Jeff Benner. The word par means to break. When we add the letter chet, we have parach, that means to break forth. When we add chav, it's the word parach, which means to break apart. And then paras is break into pieces. Parak is to break off. And paratz is to break open. Can you see what happens here? Three strong consonants in a row. This gives us an adopted root. Parent root, two-letter words that has two strong, basic and fundamental ideas in Hebrew. And the Hebrew language is full of that. A child root is adding a vowel consonant into the word, and an adopted root is having three strong consonants in a row. In our next video, we will now start looking at how can we add certain letters or combination of letters either in the beginning of a root word or at the end of a root word to give us the fuller meaning. And also, once we know what these basic and common prefixes and suffixes are, and we are able to take them off words, it's much easier for us to find a root word, and then going through the motions, obviously we need to be able to spot, is this a child root, is this a parent root, or is this an adopted root? We are very close to beginning to read the text. One more to go. Next round, we look at the common prefixes and suffixes which you might have to memorize. But once we have this in the pocket, I think we'll be ready to start reading and discovering the meaning of what does the Hebrew actually say. Until next time.